The night the alien woman fell from the sky, no one on Earth realized humanity had just started its first real war, and the strange part was that humans didn't even know they had already won the first move. Dr. Elias Carter worked in a small desert research clinic on the edge of a forgotten mining colony in Nevada. The building looked like it had lost an argument with gravity. Paint peeled from the walls, the lights hummed like tired insects, and the equipment was older than some of the interns who occasionally rotated through the place. But Elias liked it that way. Quiet places meant fewer problems. And after 15 years working emergency medicine on the border of space traffic routes, Elias had learned one simple truth about the universe. Where there were ships, there were accidents. And where there were accidents, people needed someone who knew how to fix broken bodies. That night started like any other. Elias was halfway through a cup of terrible coffee when every sensor in the clinic screamed at once. The warning console flashed red. Atmospheric breach detected. Elias frowned. The desert outside was empty for miles. No ships were scheduled. No military traffic either. Then something bright tore across the night sky. Not a meteor. Not a satellite. A ship. It came down fast and ugly, trailing sparks like a wounded animal. The object slammed into the desert hills less than 2 kilometers from the clinic. The ground shook just enough to rattle the medical trays. Elias stared out the window. "Well," he muttered, grabbing his medical bag. "Looks like someone needs help." The crash site looked like a battlefield. The ship had plowed through sand and rock before stopping against a ridge of stone. Parts of the hull were still glowing red from heat. The air smelled like metal and burned circuitry. Elias approached slowly. "Hello," he called. No response. That usually meant one of two things. Either the pilot was dead, or the pilot was not human. He climbed through a broken section of hull. Inside, the ship was silent. Panels flickered weakly. Strange alien symbols blinked across cracked displays. Elias followed a trail of dark blood across the floor. The pilot was lying near the navigation console. At first glance, she looked human. But not quite. Her ears were long and elegant, tapering back like sculpted metal. Her skin carried a faint silver glow under the emergency lights. Dark hair spread across the floor around her head like spilled ink. And she was badly injured. A deep wound cut across her side. Her breathing was shallow. Blood had soaked through her uniform. Elias dropped beside her instantly. Hey, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. They were not human eyes. They shimmered faintly, like distant stars trapped inside glass. She studied him silently. Confusion passed across her face. Then something else. Recognition. "You," she whispered. Her voice sounded musical, but strained. "You are human." Elias blinked. "Well, yeah." She stared at him with intense focus, like someone trying to solve a puzzle that shouldn't exist. Then she lost consciousness. Elias didn't waste another second. He lifted her carefully. "All right," he muttered. "Let's keep you alive first. Questions later." Back at the clinic, the scanners lit up like a Christmas tree. Elias had treated alien patients before, but nothing like this. Her anatomy was close to human, but improved in ways that made him quietly impressed. 2 secondary organs supported circulation. Her bone structure was lighter, stronger. Her nervous system was faster. "Whoever built your species," Elias murmured while sealing the wound, "they knew what they were doing." The surgery lasted nearly 2 hours. Finally, the bleeding stopped. Her vitals stabilized. Elias leaned back in his chair and wiped sweat from his forehead. "Congratulations," he said to the unconscious alien. "You survived." Her hand suddenly grabbed his wrist. Fast. Very fast. Her eyes snapped open. "You live," she said. Elias blinked in surprise. "Well, that's generally the plan." She studied him with intense seriousness. "You preserved my life," she said slowly. "Yes." She nodded once. A very solemn gesture. "Then the bond is formed." Elias frowned. "What bond?" She sat up despite the fresh bandages. My life now continues because of you. By the laws of my people, I am now bound. Elias raised an eyebrow. Bound how? Her answer came without hesitation. I remain with you. Elias stared at her. Then he laughed. Okay, no. That's not happening. She looked confused. You refuse the bond? Yes. That is not possible. Elias leaned back. Trust me. Humans refuse things all the time. She tilted her head slightly, studying him like a scientist examining a strange animal. You are unusual, she said. Thanks. She placed a hand over her chest. My name is Lyra Varel of the Ethery. Elias pointed to himself. Elias Carter. Doctor. Human. Owner of this very underfunded clinic. Lyra nodded. Then I will protect you, Elias Carter. I don't need protection. She glanced around the clinic. The flickering lights. The outdated equipment. The broken door lock. You clearly do. Elias opened his mouth. Then closed it. Okay, he said slowly. That was a little insulting. Lyra stood up carefully. Despite the injury, she moved with calm precision. Then she walked to the corner of the room and stood facing the door, guarding it. What are you doing? Elias asked. I am remaining. You're serious? Yes. Elias rubbed his temples. This is not how healthcare works. Lyra's ears twitched slightly. You restored my existence. My species recognizes such actions as sacred. Elias sighed. Humans call that doing your job. She considered that. That is a strange culture. You have no idea. For 2 days, Lyra refused to leave. She stood guard outside the clinic. She reorganized medical supplies. She repaired equipment Elias thought was permanently broken. And she asked questions. So many questions. About humans. About Earth. About why humanity had survived so long despite being, in her words, dangerously underdeveloped compared to the rest of the galaxy. On the 3rd day, the real problem arrived. 3 alien ships appeared above the desert. Large. Military. Black triangular vessels that blocked out the stars. Lyra went completely still when she saw them. Her expression changed instantly. Fear. Real fear. They found me, she whispered. Elias looked up at the ships. Friends of yours? No. Her voice was quiet. They are hunters. Elias folded his arms. Well, he said calmly. That sounds inconvenient. Lyra turned to him. You do not understand. Then explain. She took a slow breath. I carry knowledge that could destroy empires. Elias blinked. Of course you do. The Dominion will erase entire planets to retrieve it. The ships began descending toward the desert. Engines roaring like thunder. Lyra looked at Elias with sudden urgency. You must run. Elias grabbed another cup of terrible coffee. No. She stared at him. They will kill you. Probably. You are not afraid. Elias shrugged. Lady, I run a medical clinic in the middle of nowhere. He took a sip. I deal with worse things before breakfast. Outside, the alien warships touched down. Dozens of armored soldiers poured into the desert. Lyra whispered in horror. They will burn this entire region. Elias finished his coffee. Then he grabbed his medical gloves. Relax, he said. Humans are very good at solving impossible problems. Lyra watched him in confusion. How? Elias smiled slightly. By cheating. And outside the clinic doors, humanity was about to prove why the galaxy had made a very dangerous mistake. The alien warships landed in the desert like predators claiming territory. Dust clouds rolled across the empty land as armored soldiers poured from the black ships. Their armor was sleek and dark, covered in glowing symbols that pulsed like angry stars. Each soldier carried a weapon that hummed with quiet, destructive power. From the clinic window, Lyra watched them with growing tension. "They are Dominion hunters," she said softly. Elias glanced outside while tightening the strap of his medical gloves. "They look expensive. They are designed to erase civilizations." "Ah," Elias replied calmly. "So just another Tuesday." Lyra turned to him, disbelief written across her face. "You do not understand the danger." "Correct," Elias said. "But I understand people. And soldiers are just people wearing scary suits." The clinic sensors suddenly began screaming. Movement. 30 armed soldiers were advancing toward the building. Lyra's eyes widened. "They will not negotiate." Elias scratched his chin thoughtfully. "That's unfortunate," he said. "Why?" "Because I was planning to talk." Lyra stared at him. "You cannot reason with them." Elias grabbed an old tablet from the counter and tapped a few buttons. "You'd be surprised what humans can reason with." Outside, the Dominion soldiers spread out in a tactical formation. Their leader stepped forward, towering over the others. His armor carried extra plating and glowing command marks. A mechanical voice echoed through the clinic walls. "Occupants inside the structure. Surrender the ethery fugitive immediately." Lyra whispered urgently. "You must not give me to them." Elias leaned against the wall and pressed the communication button. "This is Dr. Elias Carter," he said casually. "I run the clinic you are currently pointing guns at." The commander paused. "You harbor stolen Dominion property." Lyra flinched at the word property. Elias frowned. "That's rude," he said. "She's a patient. She is a classified asset. Not in my waiting room." The commander's voice grew colder. "Dr. Carter, you have 10 seconds to comply." Elias sighed. "I hate countdowns." Lyra stepped closer to him. "You cannot stop them," she whispered. "They will destroy this building." Elias shrugged. "They probably will." Her confusion deepened. "Then why are you not fleeing?" "Because running would be admitting their right." Lyra blinked. "What?" Elias smiled faintly. "Humans don't like bullies." Outside, the commander raised his hand. The soldiers lifted their weapons. But before they could fire, every Dominion weapon suddenly powered down. The glowing barrels went dark. Confused murmurs spread among the soldiers. "What just happened?" Elias asked casually. Lyra looked stunned. "How did you do that?" Elias held up the tablet. "Your ship was broadcasting a distress signal on open channels when it crashed." "Yes." "Well, so were their ships." Her eyes widened slowly. "You hacked them." "Technically," Elias corrected, "I fixed a software problem." The Dominion commander roared in anger. His armor lights flared bright red. "You dare interfere with Dominion technology?" Elias leaned toward the microphone. "Oh, absolutely." Behind the commander, several soldiers tried to restart their weapons. Nothing worked. Lyra stared at Elias with growing amazement. "You disabled their entire squad." Elias nodded. "Turns out their encryption system is very confident." "That is not a weakness. It is when you meet humans." The commander stepped forward, furious. "Then we will take her by force." The soldiers began charging toward the clinic doors. Lyra immediately moved into a defensive stance. Her body shifted with sudden grace, muscles ready for combat. "You must stay behind me," she told Elias. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "They will kill you first." "That seems inefficient." The first soldier kicked the clinic door open. The second he stepped inside, he froze. Not from fear. From confusion. Because the entire floor collapsed beneath him. A hidden pit trap opened, dropping the soldier into a containment chamber below. The second soldier tripped over a wire and slammed into a medical cart. The third soldier slipped on spilled sterilization fluid. Within 10 seconds, Chaos had replaced military discipline. Lyra stared in disbelief. "You prepared traps?" Elias shrugged. "I work on the frontier." The remaining soldiers hesitated outside the door. The commander snarled in rage. "Primitive tricks will not save you." Elias pressed another button. The clinic speakers activated. A loud emergency broadcast echoed across the desert. "Attention nearby settlements. Armed Dominion soldiers attempting illegal raid on civilian medical facility." Lyra's eyes widened again. "What did you just do?" Elias smiled. "Called for witnesses." Within minutes, lights appeared across the distant desert. Mining vehicles, cargo transports, even a few civilian patrol drones. People were watching. The Dominion commander realized it immediately. His soldiers stood frozen. Dominion operations relied on secrecy. Mass civilian witnesses complicated things. Lyra whispered slowly. "You are using politics as a weapon." Elias nodded. "Humans invented bureaucracy. Trust me, it's terrifying." The commander glared at the growing number of observers. Then his voice returned through the speakers. "This matter is not finished." Elias replied instantly. "Oh, it definitely is for today." The Dominion soldiers retreated toward their ships. Within minutes, the warships lifted off and disappeared into the upper atmosphere. Silence returned to the desert. Lyra slowly turned toward Elias. "You forced them to retreat." "Temporarily," Elias said. "They will return with greater force." "Probably." She studied him with new understanding. "You did not defeat them with strength." "Nope. You defeated them with creativity." Elias grinned. "That's our thing." Lyra looked out toward the sky where the ships had vanished. "For thousands of years," she said quietly, "the Dominion has conquered star systems without resistance." Elias walked back to the coffee machine. "Well," he said while pouring another terrible cup, "welcome to Earth." Lyra turned back toward him. Her expression was no longer confused. It was thoughtful. "You are not afraid of them." Elias took a sip of coffee. "They're just bigger bullies. And humans fight bullies. Eventually." Lyra smiled faintly for the first time. Then the Dominion made a catastrophic mistake. Elias raised an eyebrow. "What mistake?" Lyra looked directly at him. "They started a conflict with humanity." Outside, the desert wind moved quietly across the sand. But far above the planet, Dominion fleets were already mobilizing. And they had no idea what kind of species they had just threatened. Because across the long history of the galaxy, one truth had never been recorded. Humans were the most dangerous problem solvers in existence. And once they decided to protect something, they never stopped. Far above Earth, hidden beyond the moon's dark orbit, the Dominion fleet gathered in silence. 30 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. At the center of the formation floated the command vessel Varkesh, a massive triangular fortress of black metal and cold blue lights. Inside its command chamber, Dominion High Commander Zareth watched Earth rotate slowly beneath him. "A primitive world," he said. A hologram displayed the clinic incident from the desert. The human doctor. The alien woman. The retreat of Dominion hunters. Zaretha's eyes narrowed. "Explain this failure." One of the officers spoke carefully. "The human manipulated our weapon network through civilian signal interference." Zaretha's expression darkened. "A medical worker defeated trained hunters." "Yes, Commander." Silence filled the chamber. Then Zareth gave a quiet order. "Prepare orbital strike authorization." Another officer hesitated. "Commander, there are billions of civilians." Zaretha's voice turned cold. "The E3 scientist carries forbidden knowledge. Entire civilizations have been erased for less." The officer lowered his head. "Yes, Commander." Below them, Earth continued spinning peacefully, completely unaware that a fleet of alien warships was preparing to attack. But on the ground, things were already changing. Back at the clinic, Elias Carter was fixing the coffee machine again. Lyra watched him with curiosity. "You truly believe the Dominion will return?" "Definitely," Elias said. "And yet you are repairing beverage equipment." Elias shrugged. "If the end of the world is coming, I'd like decent coffee first." Lyra shook her head slightly. "You humans are unusual." "Thank you." But something else was happening. News of the Dominion ships had spread quickly across nearby settlements. Mining colonies, transport hubs, frontier stations. Dozens of civilian sensors had recorded the arrival of alien warships. Within hours, the information reached Earth's global network. Military satellites, scientific agencies, defense command. Humanity now knew something had arrived. And humans had a habit of asking questions. Inside the Pentagon's Orbital Defense Command Center, alarms were lighting up across every screen. General Marcus Hale stood at the center of the room. "Report." A technician spoke quickly. 30 unidentified warships detected beyond lunar orbit. Origin: unknown alien civilization. Another analyst raised his voice. "Sir, they are powering energy weapons." The room went silent. General Hale took a slow breath. "Are they targeting Earth?" "Yes, sir." Hale nodded once. Then he said the sentence that would change human history. "Activate Global Defense Protocol." Across Earth, systems began waking up. Satellites, deep space radars, experimental weapons platforms, hidden defense systems that had been quietly built over decades. Humans had never met an alien invasion before, but humans had spent centuries imagining one, and they had prepared accordingly. At the clinic, Lyra suddenly froze. Her eyes lifted toward the sky. "They are preparing orbital weapons." Elias looked up from the coffee machine. "That sounds expensive." "You do not understand," she said urgently. "They will burn entire cities to retrieve me." Elias thought about that for a moment. Then he walked outside and looked up at the stars. "You know," he said slowly, "they didn't ask permission." Lyra stared at him. "Permission?" "Yeah." "For what?" Elias smiled faintly. "For attacking Earth." In orbit, the Dominion fleet moved into firing position. Commander Zareth raised his hand. "Begin planetary cleansing strike." The weapons began charging. Energy gathered across the warships like miniature suns. But before the first shot could fire, every Dominion console went dark. The command chamber exploded with confusion. "Commander, our systems are failing. Navigation offline. Weapon control disconnected." Zareth slammed his fist on the command table. "What is happening?" Then the main screen changed. A new signal had appeared. A human signal. A calm voice echoed through every Dominion ship. "Hello there." Zareth stared at the screen. A human man appeared. "General Marcus Hale." "Who are you?" Zareth demanded. "General Marcus Hale," the human replied calmly. "Defense command for the planet you're currently threatening." Zareth snarled. "You dare interfere with Dominion operations?" Hale folded his hands behind his back. "Oh, absolutely." Behind him, a display lit up. It showed hundreds of tiny objects surrounding the Dominion fleet. Satellites. Thousands of them. Zareth frowned. "Primitive machines cannot threaten Dominion warships." Hale smiled slightly. "They're not weapons." "Then what are they?" "They are computers." Zaretha's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Hale's voice remained calm. "Every satellite around your fleet is running a synchronized quantum hacking program." Zareth felt a sudden chill. "You attacked our systems." "Correct." "And you succeeded." Hale tilted his head slightly. "Well, your encryption was very confident." The Dominion commander realized the truth. The humans had already taken control. Their weapons, their navigation, their communication, all of it. How? Zareth demanded. Hale answered simply. Humans are extremely curious. Back on Earth, Lyra watched the sky. Dominion ships suddenly stopped moving. Their engines dimmed. Their weapons powered down. Elias walked outside with his coffee. Well, he said. That looks promising. Lyra looked at him. You knew this would happen. I hoped. She studied him carefully. You trusted your entire species to solve this problem. Elias shrugged. Humans like challenges. Above them, the Dominion fleet slowly turned away from Earth. Their systems completely locked by human control. Commander Zaretha's final transmission echoed through space. This conflict is not over. General Hale replied calmly. Then next time, try diplomacy. The signal ended. The Dominion fleet retreated into deep space. And for the first time in galactic history, the Dominion had been defeated. Not by superior weapons. Not by stronger ships. But by something they had never learned to respect. Human creativity. Days later, the clinic returned to quiet. Lyra stood outside watching the sunrise. Elias joined her. You're free to go now, he said. The Dominion is gone. Lyra looked at him. Yes. But you're still here. She smiled softly. You saved my life. Elias sighed. We talked about the bond thing. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Yes. And I still remain. Elias looked at the sunrise. Then he laughed quietly. All right, he said. Just don't reorganize my kitchen. Lyra's eyes sparkled. No promises. Far away in deep space, the Dominion fleet continued its retreat. And across the galaxy, one message began spreading rapidly through alien civilizations. Earth had been discovered. Humanity had entered the galactic stage. And every empire quickly learned the same terrifying lesson. Humans were not the strongest species. But they were the most dangerous. Because humans never stopped asking one simple question. What happens if we try something crazy? And most of the time, it worked.